It's a very diverse chain of islands, 122 miles long, with a different priority in Key Largo at the northern end than you would have in Key West at the most southern point. So it's a lot of fun balancing just the local needs and priorities. Good government is being responsive to your community, to hearing what the needs are, and being able to create policies that protect the needs of the majority of the people in your community. I would want people to know that the majority of their elected officials are all doing this for the right reasons.
I'm about to spend some time talking about one of my favorite places on earth, the fabulous Florida Keys. Welcome to the Good Government Show. I'm Dave Martin, and you're about to hear my conversation with Monroe County Commissioner Michelle Lincoln. I met Michelle at the National Association of Counties Legislative Conference just sort of by accident, a little trouble with our lunch order. Then I found out she was from the Keys, and, well, I always want to hear more about the Keys. One of the things we talked about was the county's canal restoration project. This is a story we reported on in season 1 of the Good Government Show. And the project is improving water flow and cleaning up water in the many canals in the Keys. Glad to report more canals are being cleaned up. Michelle comes to county government after serving the city of Marathon. She was on the Marathon City Council, and she served one term as the mayor of Marathon. And Marathon, by the way, is in the exact middle of the Florida Keys. It's a great spot for fishing and diving, and those are two of the things that drew Michelle and me to the Keys in the first place. She's also a member of the South Florida Regional Council, and here with NACo, she's on the Community Economic and Workforce Development Steering Committee. She's second vice president of the Florida Association of Counties and is vice chair of the Water, Environment, and Sustainability Committee. Before serving in elected office, she was a child advocate coordinator for the state of Florida. She continues to work on behalf of children in her county commissioner's role. And she's a mentor in the Take Stock in Children program. This is a nonprofit organization that aims to provide a pathway for success for middle school and for high school students. So we have a lot to talk about, including the only dessert to eat in the Florida Keys. Of course, I'm talking about key lime pie. Anyway, I'll have that conversation with Michelle Lincoln of the Florida Keys coming up right after this. The Good Government Show is sponsored by NACo. That's the National Association of Counties. County government is actually the oldest form of government in the United States, and it touches more people directly. Roads, highways, hospitals, schools, recycling, law enforcement, water and sewers. In most of the country, those services are maintained by the county, that's county government. NACo is a nationwide organization that represents all 3,069 counties across the USA. NACo helps county government work better together through things like sharing best practices, because when county government works well, that's just good government. Welcome to the Good Government Show, and today we're having a conversation with Michelle Lincoln. Please introduce yourself, tell us where you're from and what your title is.
Well, thank you for that. My name is Michelle Lincoln, as you just said, and I am a county commissioner in Monroe County, which is in the state of Florida, and Monroe County is in the fabulous Florida Keys.
The fabulous Florida Keys.
Yes.
And full disclosure, we met at lunch, and we was a little mix-up with our orders. And when I heard you were from the Keys, we just started talking because it's one of my favorite places on earth. What brought you to the Keys?
The gorgeous climate, the water, the fishing.
Yeah.
It's that same story that everyone says. I came on vacation and never left.
And got sand in your shoes.
Yes.
Do you get out to fish much, or do you
not as much
dive,
as I used to?
Or what?
But I used to pretty much fish almost every day and paddleboard and play tennis and just take in everything that you can living in a beautiful climate.
I have some friends up in Isla Mirada.
Yes.
And the Upper Keys. He gets on his boat every morning about 7:30. He goes out and catches lunch and dinner and comes back, and he has fresh fish for lunch and dinner almost every day.
Almost every day you can.
Just about. I mean, maybe some weather every once in a while, or get a hankering for a steak, but yeah.
And in lobster season, you can just go out and get your fresh lobster and come back in.
I've caught a few lobster diving down there. So yes, it's the fabulous Florida Keys it is. And what I do want to start with, one of the stories we did in our first season of the Good Government Show is we interviewed a bunch of folks about the canal restoration project that's going on down there. I think this was 3 years ago. Rhonda Hagg from Monroe County was our guide to what was going on down there, and I guess they had developed some new techniques to clean up the water and clean up the waterways and improve water circulation. How's it going?
You know what? It is remarkable, the difference that we see in the waters that have had the canal restoration projects in place. And it truly is cleaning up the water. It is making the seagrass grow again. It's bringing back all the fish and sea creatures that are supposed to be in your canal. And it's been super successful for us.
And it's made beautiful water clean and swimmable, fishable.
Right.
And
it's protecting the reef. And that was the whole goal of this process to begin with, was we wanted to know, and we had a study that was conducted by the Florida's FAU, Florida Atlantic University, that helped us do some studies on water quality. And would the quality of water in a canal impact that reef? You know, we have the third largest barrier reef in the world in our backyard that we're the stewards of. And we found out that, yes, there is a direct correlation between the quality of the water in a canal and protecting the reef. And so not only is it making a residential community look nicer, smell better because the dead weed isn't there any longer, but it is improving the quality of our reef.
That was one of the things that astounded me. And I was mostly up in Key Largo in the Upper Keys, and people said they couldn't sit in their backyards on the canal.
Right, because the water was dead, and the weed would come in and it would rot and then sink to the bottom and create a sludge on the bottom of the ocean and just turn the quality of the water from being clear to all cloudy.
Yeah, and I remember they were talking about they couldn't leave their boats in the water. They couldn't swim. They couldn't kind of use their backyard, which is a canal, mostly on the bay side. But either way, that's why you go to the Keys, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think when we spoke with Rhonda, I think she was up to, I'm going to say 4 or 6 canals have been completely renovated and restored. How many are you up to? How many to go?
So this is so exciting because, and first of all, shout out to Rhonda Hagg, who was our resiliency officer. And I think she had a vision before any other county in the state of Florida ever visualized what we could be doing and how we could improve the quality of our water and our environment. And so she's amazing. And actually at our next meeting, we're about to approve 11 more canals that have been earmarked for canal restoration.
And where are these 11 canals?
They are up and down, all up and down the Keys, but predominantly the ones we're going to do this time are in the Big Pine and the Summerland and Sugarloaf areas.
In the Lower Keys.
So the Lower Keys.
Is there any thought to spreading it out up and down the Keys, or is it just next worst?
So sure, there's a little rhyme and reason involved in how we're doing this. It's mainly in the unincorporated areas that I get involved with.
All right.
And then we start with which are the ones that have the most need, and how is that going to fit with the funding that we've received to do these projects, and what kind of buy-in do we get from the residential community? Because a lot of what we're doing will then require ongoing maintenance that we're asking the residents of that community to provide the cost for that. So we're having community meetings, which takes a lot of time and energy, and it's educating the community, the specific neighborhood, on the pros and cons of us coming in and doing the canal restoration, and then for them to agree that they would do the ongoing maintenance if there's a weed gate or if there's a pump out system, that they would have to be helping to provide the financial cost for that. So then we have to have them have their meeting, and then they get a vote on it, and then it comes to the county commission, and then we approve it. So it's government, so it's slow.
Okay. Is it hard to sometimes rally the local residents? Because I'm sure there's a very big difference between the conks, born and raised,
Sure.
don't change nothing, I don't want that, we didn't need that, my grandfather didn't have it, and the folks who have, realized what an awesome place the Keys are and moved down. Is that a challenge to manage the sort of two different groups? And are they two different groups?
So expectations of the two groups are definitely different. Yet when
is that a fair comparison? Is that a fair assessment of the two groups?
Yes.
Okay.
It is.
All right.
And I think a lot of times the locals will say, when somebody from New York says, well, that's not how we do it in New York, the local conks will say, well, then go back to New York.
Are you a conk? Are you a freshwater conk?
I'm a freshwater conk.
All right.
I'm an honorary.
That's all right.
But when it comes to anything around the environment, when it comes to the canals, it's truly the conks who remember when they were beautiful and clean and pristine. And so they're all in favor of everything that we're doing to try to protect that environment and to get that water back to the quality that it used to be.
And is it hard to manage the weekend homes, the vacation homeowners, the folks who are coming down for the weekend from other parts of Florida, to get them to buy into everything that has to happen, Monday through Friday, maybe when they're not there?
Sure. There is that mindset of people who have vacation rentals, that the people who come down are on vacation. Right. So that attitude of, I'm on vacation, it's okay if I throw these carcasses in the ocean or back in the canal and not clean them up, and it's okay if I throw trash out my window. But locals don't have that same thought process.
So the Monroe County, the Florida Keys, stretches from the very southern tip of mainland Florida all the way down to Key West. You have some of the best diving in the United States, some of the best fishing in the world, certainly if not in the United States. You have Key West, which is a crazy town down in the southernmost point. What possible problems could you have in the Florida Keys? What could go wrong in paradise?
I know, exactly.
What's going on?
It's a very diverse chain of islands, 122 miles long, with a different priority in Key Largo at the northern end than you would have in Key West at the most southern point. So it's a lot of fun balancing just the local needs and priorities. So that's always fun, definitely, because we are an area of critical state concern. That was a title that was given to us by the state of Florida. We have different rules than anyone else in the state on how we can build and when we have build out. And one road in and one road out truly makes us have to always be very cognizant of hurricanes and our capacity and our levels of services that we need to provide to not only our residents, but also our tourists.
Are they ever going to make A1A a little bit wider?
I don't see that ever happening.
Good and bad.
Good and bad.
Yes.
Good and bad.
It didn't used to take as much time as it does to drive down to the Keys, drive through the Keys as it does, but I suppose that's traffic moves slower.
Traffic moves slower.
Yes.
We have definitely a lot more day trippers than we used to.
Yeah.
But we also have a lot more people who are flying in to Key West, and we're right now in the middle of doing an airport improvement
at the Key West International Airport.
Key West International Airport.
Which is not really international, or is it? It's not international. It wasn't. I don't think there's any international flights.
Well, there are private ones.
Of course. All right. Well, what about the airport on Marathon?
We are actually right now redoing the runways so that we can try to get commercial service back there.
Okay. All right. I could talk about the Keys all day.
I know you could.
I almost did. But we do have some questions. We have a questionnaire we're going to get to now.
Okay.
And we're going to get your real take on what government is. So my first question, this is the hardest one, from where you sit as a county commissioner. And before I begin, have you had other jobs before in politics as an elected officer before you were a county commissioner?
Yes.
What were you?
I served one term as a city councilwoman in the city of Marathon, Florida. Okay. So it's one of the incorporated cities in Monroe County.
And what made you decide to get it? You're not from there. What made you decide to get into politics, get into government?
I decided I wanted to be a public servant. Okay. And I've always been active in the community. And when I first moved to the Florida Keys, I immediately got involved and did volunteer work. And in fact, at one point, I was working as a board member for a daycare in Marathon that had been destroyed in Hurricane Wilma, and was helping them rebuild and raise funds. And somebody said, Michelle, why are you doing this? Your children are grown. You don't have any dogs in this fight. And I said, you know what? All these dogs are mine to fight for. Good. And if we don't take care of our community, who is? And so I got involved, and while doing that, I ended up getting a job with the state of Florida as a guardian ad litem. So I was working with children who'd been abused, abandoned, and neglected, and I was representing them in court. And that job truly taught me the importance of gathering all my facts, doing my own independent research and study, so that when I got before the judge, I could truly look the judge in the eye and say, this is why what I want to propose is the best thing for this specific child. And I could do it knowing that I had a suitcase of facts in my back pocket. And while doing all of that work, I looked around, I'm like, wow, there's so much our community could be doing different or better, or why isn't anybody fighting for this cause or that cause? And I realized
you got to peek behind the curtain.
I did. Yeah. And so then I decided, all right, if I'm seeing it and I truly believe I have the passion for it, then I need to put my name in the hat. And so I ran for my Marathon City Council, and I won. And while doing that, I realized that I could do it even bigger, and work for the entire county.
And you get to stay in Monroe. And
stay right here, and I absolutely love what I do every single day.
What is good government to you? What's your definition of good government?
Good government is being responsive to your community, to hearing what the needs are, and being able to create policies that protect the needs of the majority of the people in your community.
How do you know if you're doing a good job?
Oh, they tell me every single solitary day. Whether I'm at the grocery store.
Is that your personal yardstick? Is what people tell you?
Absolutely. It truly is. It's the if you know you're doing your job the right way, and if I'm available and take their phone calls, their emails, if I'm out in the community, so I see with my own eyes what's going on. And if I just plop down at the bleachers at the kids' softball game and just talk to the parents and hear what they're saying, then I know I'm being responsive.
And I would imagine in Marathon, certainly, there's probably a very tight community of residents who are paying attention.
Oh, absolutely. And not just Marathon, all of the Florida Keys. I think that we're probably the most educated community when it comes to they're on top of every political decision that is being made.
I'm sure there's lots of folks who just aren't engaged, but I'm sure the folks who are engaged are very engaged.
Are truly engaged.
Is that right?
It is. You know, we don't have a television station in the Florida Keys, but we have a couple of radio stations that everyone listens to every single solitary morning, Monday through Friday, you know, 7:30 to 9, and that's where everyone gathers all their information.
So how should the people, those very engaged and those not so engaged, how should they hold you accountable?
By doing what I say I'm going to do, by making decisions that benefit the residents, the county. You know, we are such a tourist-driven economy that it's so important for us to have, quote unquote, a product that makes a tourist want to come back year in and year out, and at the same time balance that with the needs of those worker bees that provide that quality of service that tourists want, and to make sure the quality of life of our residents is equal.
But that's a hard balance, because you've got economically
it is
balance, and as well as, you know, the people who are living there. True. How do you work with that?
I make sure that our parks and beaches and recreational facilities that we have for our residents are tip top.
Okay.
You know, you make sure you have for your residents what you would want.
I used to camp at Bahia Honda.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous, isn't it?
It was, yes. It still is.
Yes, it is. And just fighting for like workforce housing, just to make sure that we're always providing what we can for our workforce.
You have a very diverse region in Monroe, like you said, from Largo down to Key West. What would you like people to know about how government works in Monroe?
I would want people to know that the majority of their elected officials are all doing this for the right reasons. That I get up in the morning and I do my homework and I go out and I meet with my constituents and I hold meetings and are held accountable by the decisions that I make. And that I'm doing this because I love my community and want it to be a fabulous place for the next generations to come.
Well, it is the fabulous Florida Keys.
For a reason.
There's a little pressure to keep the fabulous Florida Keys name, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, who is your political hero?
Who is my political hero?
Yes.
You mean other than my namesake, Abraham Lincoln?
You can go with that. Are you in relation to the Lincoln family?
Yes.
Are you really?
Yes.
In what way?
My great-great-great-grandfather and Abraham Lincoln's dad were brothers.
Really?
Yes.
So you are a true Lincoln.
True. Yes.
All right. But you're not from Illinois, so.
Louisville, Kentucky.
Kentucky, that's right.
Yes.
That's where he was from.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
so are we going to stay with Lincoln as your political hero?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Not. I can't think of a better one than that.
I
so
know.
Good.
I know.
Now, you're down in the Florida Keys. Some of the best fishing.
Yes.
What is your favorite dish down there? If somebody's coming out of the Keys, what are you saying? Make sure you have.
Oh, that I'm going to fix myself would be snapper, fresh snapper, filleted,
All right.
lightly pankoed.
Okay.
And then I just quickly saute it. And then I get some white wine and some key lime, squeeze that in the skillet, swirl it around, add some what is it? Starts with those little round peppers. What are they? Why am I blanking on them? Capers.
Okay.
Some capers. Get a nice sauce going.
I think my partner David Snyder was saying this was his go-to dish when he was down visiting.
Only his had
snapper.
No, it had onion rings.
All right. You can't. I'm
gonna have to find that.
All right. So a filleted snapper. That's it. That's the dish.
That's it.
And for dessert?
Key lime pie.
Thank you. All right. Was getting into politics something you always thought of in the back of your mind? Were you, like in school, in the student council? Were you, knocking on doors? Were you watching presidential debates?
I would have to say yes and no. I never thought as an adult that I would have this career path. However, when I was in high school, I was the vice president of my school community youth group. I was in Girl Scouts all the way through my senior year. I was on a Girl Scout cookie box.
Were you really?
I was.
Which one?
Samoas.
All right. Okay, it's not Thin Mints, but that's okay.
I know. But the year it debuted, I was on the box for 2 years.
No kidding.
No.
Wow.
I still have the box framed.
I was going to ask, do you still have a couple boxes?
Absolutely.
And do you get Samoas every year?
Of course I do.
Is that your favorite Girl Scout cookie?
It is. It is.
Is it really?
It truly is. But I like the peanut butter patties and I also like the Thin Mints. And I just haven't met a Girl Scout cookie I don't like.
And the Thin Mints?
Yes, of course.
All right. We talked a little bit about the canal restoration project.
Yes.
What else is going on down in the Keys? What's a great good government project that's going on right now?
We're all about resiliency right now, and we have just completed our entire mapping of every road in Monroe County and where are they in the vulnerability of sea level rise, of storm surge, of king tides, and what are we...
Isn't half of the Keys like below sea level?
at or about correct,
Right.
So we know during any king tide, we have some streets that are already inundated with stormwater or with ocean water. And so we've just completed 3 pilot studies of road and ways of elevating the roads, pumping out the water, but we have to do it in such a way that runoff of that water doesn't go back into our beautiful ocean that we're doing so much to protect.
How do you learn about something like that? Because that's not something you study.
I know, right?
Right.
It's
how do you pick that up?
From a lot of conference calls and meetings with Rhonda Haig.
Well, there are worse people to talk to than Rhonda Haig. This has been a great conversation. Again, thank you for stopping by.
My pleasure.
Michelle Lincoln, a great conversation with you. And please give our best to Rhonda and say hello to the Keys for me.
I will. Come back and see us again.
You bet I will.
We'll
Thank
have
you.
some key lime pie together.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kutztown University is a smart choice for Pennsylvania students or students from anywhere looking for an outstanding college experience close to home and in the heart of Pennsylvania. With over 130 majors, KU has endless academic opportunities. Kutztown also offers plenty of on-campus housing, 24/7 dining options, comprehensive support services to ensure our student success, and so much more. Kutztown has 22 NCAA Division II sports teams and a nationally recognized men's rugby team. How about that? Plus, you get it all with the affordable tuition of a state university. So visit kutztown.edu on the web, kutztown.edu, and see why it's good to be golden. Well, how about that? A descendant of Abraham Lincoln, certainly a good role model for anyone in government. And by the way, a freshwater conch, that's someone who's lived in the Florida Keys for at least 7 years. Lifelong residents, those are saltwater conchs or just conchs. So glad to hear the canal cleanup continues. We'd like to hear updates on past stories we report about here on the Good Government Show. And it's also great to hear that environmental issues are still a primary issue as they plan the future of the Florida Keys. So that was a great conversation with someone from one of the best spots on earth, Monroe County, the fabulous Florida Keys. So join me again on the Good Government Show for another conversation with another government leader, and we'll talk about their ideas of what makes for good government. I'm Dave Martin. Thanks for listening. The Good Government Show and A Conversation With is produced by Valley Park Productions. Jim Ludlow, David Martin, and David Snyder are the executive producers. Our editor and producer is Jason Stershic. This is The Good Government Show. Thanks for listening.